Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you friends for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Entitled coworker steals cash from others and gets fired, but one manager fully believed I was behind it, when clear evidence points to her. The second story. Manager who can't spell is an hour late to interview, doesn't know what businesses are within a mile radius from a restaurant, and it's all my drive-through A's fault for applying in the first place. How very dare I? The third story. I was the last employee and left, leaving this entitled manager alone. The first story is, she wanted to join criminal justice. The GM was a bit suspicious of her, but didn't have the proper proof that it was her doing, until she became too cocky or thought she'd never get caught. Cast. Me equals myself. Karen equals coworker who was fired. Sharon equals coworker who was the victim. Coworkers equals Karen's other victims. River equals no BS GM. Kane equals chill manager. Security equals himself. This happened several months before Topgolf bought the location, and I was still fairly new at my job. I believe I had only been there for a month or two, because I remember Karen was still new herself. She was very nice and told everyone that she was planning on starting college soon, and very excited about going into criminal justice. It wasn't until maybe 4 or 5 months into her employment that her true colors started showing, and money started disappearing from everyone else's drawers. Everyone but mine, cause by this point I had been moved from concession stand to checking tickets, and I hadn't started working box office until a few months later, while Karen's drawer was always has extra cash in it after her shift. There were still occasional days where I was scheduled to run concession stand, but these days were days where Karen wasn't scheduled to work, which I didn't find out until later why this was happening. It wasn't until one busy weekend where a lot of us were scheduled because a new movie just came out, as well as a special event for said movie, and we needed a lot of hands behind the concession stand for it. I was one of the extra hands, and was just grabbing extra things for anyone who needed help on the registers. Then after the event ended, I just had to cover for breaks, then I was allowed to leave. I was to cover for coworker 1 and 3 before I can leave, while Karen was covering for Sharon and coworker 2. Then Kane would handle Karen and everyone else's that didn't get their breaks afterward. When Sharon came back from her break, I noticed Karen was acting a bit on edge, but I just assumed she had a bad day, because some of the customers who were ordering from the event weren't so nice to us, and made constant changes to their orders repeatedly, not including yelling at us for how long it takes to heat up food, etc. Karen got back to her register and immediately opened her register, then started counting her cash as if she was making sure she had plenty of cash. Myself and the managers noticed this and was confused since it wasn't closing time yet. Karen was repeatedly counting her money to the point that she was ignoring the customers that want to place an order. River did a gentle throat clearing to get Karen's attention, but Karen didn't seem to notice. Luckily, I called them over to take their order, to which River went over to Karen to ask if she was alright. Karen claimed she was just fine and didn't notice the customers, or was just distracted by personal reasons, I don't remember. River seemed to just let it go and walked away. As soon as River was out of earshot, Karen immediately scoffed and rudely said, "Ugh, she always has to stick her nose into everyone's business. Doesn't she know anything about personal space? It's not like I was stealing money, I was just counting my cash, sheesh." I was surprised by the sudden snarky remark from Karen, since she was always very nice and rarely make these kinds of remarks towards anyone, besides towards the maintenance manager that nobody likes working with, because of how high and mighty he acts. Before I could say anything, Kane comes over and lets me leave because he can wait until coworker 3 returns, since night shift was going to be arriving soon, and because it was going to take a few minutes before my ride gets there, so I just go and clock out. I was about to tell River about the snarky remark Karen made about her, but when I walked into the office with my drawer, she was talking with a different manager, and just gestured me to put my drawer down on the counter, and she'd check it when she's done talking. It wasn't until a week later when I was running concession stand with coworker 5, we were just casually talking about the new movies that were showing, and making predictions of the total of people who were going to come watch movies by the end of the week. When we saw Karen walk in, for her shift or so we thought. Not 5 minutes after Karen clocks in, River calls Karen into their office, which prompted coworker 5 to say a bit excitedly, "Oh, Karen's going to get it now." Me, confused. What do you mean? Coworker, you haven't heard? Karen was caught on camera stealing cash for everyone's drawers, especially Sharon's drawer. Me, I don't know because I haven't been scheduled to work for the past few days. Before we could say any more, River opens the door to the office and coworker 5 immediately stops talking. We just watch as Kane and security walks Karen to the locker room, where Karen then grabs her stuff with a very annoyed look on her face, or even an I could care less about losing my job look on her face, as she's being escorted out of the building, which was the last time she was seen in the building. River eventually pulled me to the side and revealed a lot of them suspected that Karen had been stealing cash from other drawers and keeping it for herself. But for some reason, the maintenance manager was convinced that I was the one who had been taking money, despite me not at the time having any experience working in the box office, which the other managers and River herself backed me up, and wasn't convinced that I was the one taking the money since, in River's own words, "You're too honest, kind, straightforward, and wouldn't try to take something out of someone else's drawer." Even though they were suspected Karen of doing so from the start, they still had to keep a close eye on anyone who ran a register, including me. But I'm glad I wasn't the one who bit the bullet, even though the maintenance manager wanted me to jerk. I'm glad everything worked out in the end. A couple months later, I was at a buffet with my family and just enjoying some food, when I thought I recognized a server, to which I turned and looked at the server's face. It was Karen, and I'm sure she saw me too, because she kept her head down, while making sure to keep her distance from me and my family. I wasn't planning on approaching her, or calling her out on what she did, but I doubt she'd get into criminal justice with that imprint on her resume. Edit. It's imprinted on her background check, not her resume. I had to think about it after posting the story. I'm not a manager, but I remember a manager talking about it earlier while I was at work, and recall the proper wording. The second story is, anyone want to vent about terrible restaurant interviews? 'Cause I do. I was looking for a new job, walked into a quaint but kinda classy lounge down the street from my then current job, personally handed my resume to the MOD, and left with confidence that this would be my next step up in life. Looking back, it doesn't matter much if the staff seems calm if there are also no customers in the restaurant. There's usually a good reason for that. The manager had asked me to put in my application via Indeed, which I did immediately upon arriving home. My first red flag should have been the numerous spelling mistakes in the job posting. Servers Needed was the title. But you know, not everyone was spelling bee champ of their elementary school 3 years in a row. Yes, I lost at county all 3 years, but I did get to county and that got me a shiny ribbon. When I arrived a week later for my scheduled interview, the lounge was completely empty save for a host and a line cook. I'm not sure where the server was, but I figured that's probably why they're hiring servers with an apostrophe S. Maybe the host doubles as the server. Maybe the MOD is in the back and works the floor when customers arrive. I told the host I was there for an interview and he sat me at a table and let me know the MOD would be there soon. Okay, awesome, thank you, sir. Do you mind if I have a cup of water? 20 minutes pass, which is 5 minutes later than the interview is supposed to start, and I have neither a manager in front of me nor that cup of water. It's hot inside. The host has disappeared. I figured this is a fair time to ask the cook in the open kitchen whether he would check for the manager in the back for me. Oh, Anne? She left like 3 hours ago. I think she went home for the day, but I can call her. At this point, I'm peeved, but I figure everyone makes mistakes. To be fair, it was literally dead in there, and I am also obscenely forgetful, which is why I'm working as a diner waitress and not as an office lady, where my responsibility matters very much. I guess. That's the self-defeating narrative I tell myself. 45 minutes later, the manager Anne arrives with groceries and spends another 15 putting them away before the cook offers to finish so she can interview me. Thank you, Mr. Cook. You're possibly the only chill dude in that place. Anne sat across from me and proceeded first not to apologize for being extremely late, but to ask why I'd showed up without submitting an application. What? What? Obviously, I had to have submitted an application, otherwise I wouldn't have been there. Well, I'm not seeing it here and I don't have your resume. Do you even have your resume with you? I had to pull out my phone, log into Indeed, and show her my personal account and the messages I had sent to her after applying, and my resume uploaded on Indeed. Oh, well, I guess it just never came through my end. Yeah, oh. So she magically finds my application, starts reading over it, and asks me why I think I can work in her fine dining lounge when my only work experience is in fast food. Now, mine is a bit of a unique situation. I do work at a chain QSR, but our location is special because it was opened by the owner personally before the company was franchised, and continued to operate as a diner/QSR hybrid. The diner itself was a full sit-in restaurant, complete with hosts, bussers, and waitstaff. It was also again right down the street from this lounge, and had been operating for over 50 years at that point. It's very well known, and even has a display in the community museum across the street from the lounge. So you can imagine my surprise when, as I'm giving a brief overview of our company history, this woman cuts me off because she does not believe this restaurant has a diner, dismisses my experience waitressing as false, and asks why do I think I can apply to a fine dining establishment when my only work history is in a drive-thru. She continued to berate me, saying that their customers are very wealthy and regularly tip 40% and expect someone to take the time to talk to them, and that again I would not know how to do that when you've only ever worked in a drive-thru, and that their job listings specified that they expect 3 years serving experience, so I should not have applied in the first place, and made her drop her emergency grocery trip to drive all the way out to the lounge for an impromptu interview. I left, and 40 minutes later my job application was denied on Indeed. It's been over a year and this SH still burns me up, especially now that I've actually moved into the upscale dining, and I can say with certainty that lounge was not fine dining. It was effing casual. And their meatballs had no seasoning. And the last story is, I was the only worker, aside from my abusive manager. It was the dinner rush. I quit. My manager has always been a raging, abusive a-hole. He goes through employees like a machine gun through bullets. People quit literally all the time, and it doesn't matter how they leave, or the way they wax lyrical about what an a-hole he is. He doesn't ever seem to get it and doesn't ever change. Every employee hates him. I personally think of him as either a skin tag or the sandworm from Dune. Today it was just me in the grocery store, and it's the busiest day, Saturday, and time 6 p.m. It was also my last day, which I had given skin tag notice of. But when the only other worker in the entire store left at the end of their shift, deli guy, and I realized I was going to be fully alone in this large grocery store until 8 p.m. because he didn't hire anyone else and everyone quit, for minimum wage, on my last day, I effing left. He started screaming, but I had you scheduled. Like, what is your effing paper and pencil schedule just gonna personify and what, like effing execute me or something? You can't leave, until it just dissolved to a series of no's, and at one point even tried to block me from retrieving my purse. What an effing weirdo. Skin tag's greatest hits. Haha. And why I don't feel bad about it. Not allowing us to drink water while we're working. Told an autistic cashier to get it through their stupid brain. Constantly yelling at us over things he's made up on the spot. Like person A can't wear a hat, but person B can. Can't ever sit, lean, or look like you aren't using every brain cell to, I don't know, effing cashier. Like it needs any. Like sitting is unprofessional. And I guess for a sandworm it is. They're usually slithering around. Takes naps every day for hours. Calling grown women, myself and customers, girls. In a really effing creepy way. With a smile. Like good girl said to a customer. Whom he had never met before. Effing creep. Punched a wall because he thought a young cashier, who's the sweetest person ever, had stolen some cheese. She was just checking the expiration date. He also yelled at her and was all unhinged and doing weird body motions, and just generally again an effing weirdo. Doesn't hire women to do manual labor. Will not hire people of color in the front unless passes for white. Once made me redo an entire wall of price stickers on individual items, because they were not all the same angle on the item. Will not let you self-start anything. He has to okay you like uncapping a pen. Will not let his employees talk to customers in a personable manner. I once did this with some people who were new and moving to the area while I was stalking. Fully working, just making small talk. He came and stood between us silently. Weird. And after a minute told them to get out. Customers tell him off for doing this. He still does it. Yet talks with customers for ages. Will not let us look at or effing interact with dogs. Pets every effing dog. Keeps the place at 54 degrees. We think he's trying to freeze us to death. I actually love the customers and I'll miss them. But I wish a dermatologist or Paul Atreides would do something about him. XOXO. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and have a nice day.